Hi guys, my name is Alvin and I'm going to give you a presentation about acid rain. First, what is an acid rain? Acid rain is a rain that is contaminated with chemicals into the atmosphere to industrial and automobile emission and increases its acidity. First, I'm going to talk about the history of acid rain. In the 17th century, a man named John Evelyn noted the low quality of Arundel marble, and after that, in the Industrial Revolution, which is around 18th to 19th century, there was an increase of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emission, and that increases the acidity in the atmosphere. And then, on 1852, an Englishman named Robert Angus Smith found the relationship between acid rain and atmospheric pollution, and then the term acid rain was coined in 1872, but it's not until 1960 it is thoroughly examined by the scientists. What is the difference of acid rain from the unpolluted normal rain? First, we can compare 3 pH or potential of hydrogen in these three flowing substances: pure water, unpolluted rain, and acid rain. The pH of pure water is 7, and then the pH of unpolluted rain is 5.6, which is slightly acidic, and then the pH of acid rain is less than 5.3, which is more acidic than unpolluted rain. Next, I'm going to talk about the gases in unpolluted rain. There are three main gases in unpolluted rain, which are carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and sulfur dioxide. Carbon dioxide usually comes from decomposition, and then it has the greatest composition of all gases, which is 335 parts per million, and the nitrogen oxide come from electric discharge, and the concentration is not as great as carbon dioxide. It's only 0.01 parts per million. And then sulfur dioxide usually comes from volcanic gases, and the concentration of sulfur dioxide it's 0 to 0.1 part per million. Next, I'm going to talk about the chemical reaction of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. First, carbon dioxide reacts with water to form a carbonic acid, but since carbonic acid is in its aqueous form, it will naturally break down into ions, which are hydrogen ions and carbonate ions. And then there's also a chemical reaction of nitrogen oxides. First, the nitrogen and the oxygen react with the help of lightning to form nitrogen monoxide, and then that nitrogen monoxide also reacts with oxygen to form nitrogen dioxide. And then after that, in the atmosphere, nitrogen dioxide reacts with water to form a nitric acid and nitrogen monoxide. And then that nitrogen monoxide goes back into the equation 2, and then so on. And then since nitric acid is in its aqueous form, it will break down into ions, which are hydrogen ions and nitrate ions. Okay, then what makes acid rain more acidic than the unpolluted rain? The answer lies on the heightened concentration of two gases, which are nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxides. Human activities has made those two gases gas concentration in the atmosphere skyrocket. First, nitrogen oxide, which mainly comes from internal combustion, and the concentration in the atmosphere becomes 0.2 parts per million. That's a 20 times increase from the natural sources. And then according to the data in 2000, the transportation is responsible for 60% of nitrogen oxides in the atmosphere. And then there's sulfur dioxide, which mainly comes from fossil fuel combustion, and the concentration becomes 0.1 to 0.2 parts per million. That's around 10 to 20 times increase rather than the unpolluted rain. And according to the data in 2000, the industries are responsible for 68% of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere. Just as I said before, humans cause many combustion processes that increase the concentration of acid-producing oxides in the atmosphere, and although carbon dioxide is still present and still in a much higher concentration than nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxides, carbon dioxide does not form acid to the same extent as the other two gases, and thus a large increase in concentration of nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxide significantly affects the pH of rainwater, even though both gases are present at much lower concentration than carbon dioxide. And then what are the effects of acid rain? First, lakes become too acidic and it became inhabitable by fishes. And then there's a degradation of soil minerals, which are washed away in water runoff. And because of that, there's going to be a release of aluminum ions, which is a toxic. And then the removal of calcium ions from soil, it kills trees and damaging crops. And then the atmospheric pollutants can be carried away by wind, and the acid rain effects can be felt far away, even far from the sources. And also, acid rain inevitably causes health problems, and in US and Canada, there are already 550 premature deaths, 1520 emergency room visits, and 210,000 asthma symptom days. And then there's also an increasing of oxidation rate of metals, especially copper and bronze. And there's also a destruction of building and structures. As you probably know, acid rain is acidic and acid is corrosive, so acid rain can corrode the outer part of the building, and especially on buildings that contain marbles or limestones. The chemical name of marbles and limestone is calcium carbonate, and calcium carbonate react with sulfuric acid from the rain to form calcium sulfate, water, and carbon dioxide. And since calcium carbonate is soluble in water, so it breaks up into calcium ions and carbonate ions, and basically some part of the building scraped off. Okay guys, so you probably know the facts of the acid rain. And the good news is there are already some prevention methods of acid rain. And then the first one is the usage of flue gas desulfurization, or FGD, in many coal burning power plants to remove sulfur containing gases from stack gases. And there's also vehicle emission control. The purpose of that is to reduce nitrogen oxide emission from motor vehicles. Okay guys, so now what can we do to prevent acid rain? First, we can conserve energy, turn off the light when it's not needed, use less aircon in the summer. Since the energy we get is from power plant, and using less energy means that we make power plants release less polluting gases into the atmosphere. And then we can also use alternative energy resources like nuclear, solar, or wind, etc. And then we can also minimize the mass, since that way we can minimize the amount of nitrogen oxide released into the air from the exhaust. Okay guys, so thank you for listening and goodbye.